レーベルの敗退性レーベルのつなぎレーベルアギトーチシ前線戦争レーベル祖先元祖レーベル神仏レーベル神がなしレーベルのはいもた37、8からちょっとそういう
When I was 37 or 38, I went insane. But I wasn't really crazy. Before I became a Yuta, I knew very little about the world.
The Yuta are shamans. They act as spiritual guides for many Okinawans.
Hi, hello, listener. Did you forget about us?
We're back, even though we weren't gonna leave.
Hey, we had a lot on, okay?
We did. There's a lot happening in our lives.
At one point, we were trying to record an episode the same day I moved house. So I don't know what the hell I was thinking. I was like, I can do it. And then Emily...
Yeah, you're like, just give me 6 hours.
Emily sent me a voice clip and she like literally couldn't talk. She sounded like the crypt keeper and she was like, I think I have strep throat. And I was like, yeah, you definitely have strep throat. We're like, yeah.
I forgot that's when that was.
Yeah. I was like, let's cancel.
Yeah. What's really funny too is that I like had gotten multiple tests and they all came back negative, but my throat very much looked like it had strep throat. I had like big white spots all over my tonsils and my tonsils were swollen and my glands were swollen. I was like in a lot of pain. And I like finally got them to give me an antibiotic because I was just like, if for some reason the tests were wrong, like I just really want to be able to treat this.
Yeah.
And then one of the podcasts that I listened to was just talking about how Jim Henson died of strep throat.
What?
Yeah, did you not know that?
No, that's a not fun fact.
Yeah, Jim Henson died of strep throat.
Oh God!
And then one of the hosts on the podcast that was talking about it was like, "What?" And then the other one was like, "Yeah, I had a friend who died of strep throat too, like when I was like a teenager or something." It's like, it happens. It does. It can kill you.
What the fuck? I did not know you could die of strep throat. What? That's insane.
Yeah.
I remember getting it in college, and then like we were supposed to have a class night out, and I went anyway. People kept just buying me hot whiskeys, and I had to go home early. I didn't know I was that close to death with no antibiotics.
I think it takes a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a while to like spread down through your system and wreck your body. But yeah, so a friendly reminder, if you think you might have strep throat, go get tested for it because it'll kill you.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, so that's the PSA. We weren't sponsored by any sort of health authority, but you know.
Yeah, not sponsored by the pharmaceutical company.
Big Pharma have not bought us off yet.
Big Pharma, right.
We need sponsors, but okay. What would we do if Big Pharma tried to sponsor us? I feel like you would have too many morals. I would not. I'd be like, okay.
I don't know. I think I would have to be faced with that. Well, I think that would be hard too because we're both from different countries.
Yeah.
Because in Ireland, they don't allow ads for pharmaceuticals, correct?
Correct. We don't have them.
Which over here.
Yeah. It's only over the counter they're allowed to advertise. So it's a lot of like Blistex for blisters and Zavirax for cold sores and ask your pharmacist about this. But yeah, we have no like, I only know the Ozempic ads from people memeing them.
Oh, I was going to say, have you ever heard the Ozempic?
Yeah, I've heard those ads and like on memes and like people like, obviously when I've listened to podcasts about Ozempic. I was actually listening to one last week from Matt. Oh my God, I cannot remember his name. He's like, he does those really informative Instagram posts.
Okay.
But anyway, he had Aubrey Gordon from Maintenance Phase on to talk about Ozempic. It was a great episode, but his podcast is called A Bit Fruity. Adorable. And yeah, he played like the Ozempic jingle. And then I also know that other guy, like some guy on TikTok, he was singing like Ozempic, but it's like, we know you didn't do that alone. He's like just making fun of all the celebrities lying about not being on it.
It's pretty wild when I think about all the different jingles they have for different drugs. It's kind of like, this feels very wrong. It shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, it's weird when you think about it. It's like, this is, depending on what you're getting, like this is something that you could probably inject into yourself and some dude is singing it. You know?
Right? And you're not a doctor. I feel like you shouldn't be able to be like, I think I do need that.
Yeah. It's so weird.
I don't know. Unless our healthcare is so bad that they're like, your doctor might not know what they're doing. So if you have COPD, you should check this out.
It also makes me laugh, all of the side effects that they list really quickly at the end.
Yeah.
It's like,
and it's in like a low tone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Death, brain bleed, liver failure. It's like, all right, cool.
That's so funny. Okay, I feel like my level's gone way down again. Why does it keep doing that?
Your new house has a ghost.
Yeah. So yes, I moved
recording
house,
ghost.
and this house is okay. Every time Ewan tells me how old this house is, he adds on 20 years. So the first time it was 120
like
years
negative
old.
20 years?
No, adds 20 years.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, he was like, oh yeah, it's like 120 years old. And then the next time it was, oh yeah, it's like 140 years old. And then I heard him telling someone it was 106. I was like, what is it? Like, are you just making this up? So yeah, I need to actually fit. But it's a very old house.
Now we're both in old houses.
Yeah. It's good. Like, we're living out our spooky lives.
Yeah. Mine's like 130 years old, I think.
Amazing.
Whatever today's date is minus 1885.
If your house had an accent, I feel like would have like one of those old like mobster movie Chicago accents. Like, I just feel like that would fit in with the era.
Like, it sounds kind of Italian.
Yeah. Just carrying around like guns in violin cases and stuff. That whole era.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
I think if you saw my house, it would maybe change your mind. Because in my mind, my house has like an old witchy voice.
Oh, cool. Even better.
Just because it's very old.
Yeah. You've seen pictures of mine.
Creaky.
It would just have an old farmer kind of a vibe. Although I think it was built by English people, so that's less fun.
I was going to say, but like an Irish farmer, not like when I think of a farmer, it's like, who doggy?
So yes, this is Rowan Pine, in case we didn't say. I don't think we did.
Oh, yeah. And I'm Emily.
And I'm Niamh. And we were supposed to be doing a witch series, and then life got in the way. So this is going to be your final installment of the witch series, because we are Capricorns and we cannot leave a pattern incomplete. And I feel like...
Even though there's months in between.
Hey. No, do you know what I actually feel most bad about was... I feel like every podcast went on hiatus the same time as we sort of did. So, like, there was nothing
really?
coming out. Like, everything that I listened to, there was, like, weeks of nothing. And I was like, oh, no. I was like, if other people are listening to the same stuff as me, they have nothing to listen to.
That hasn't been my problem. But I listen to... A lot of the podcasts that I listen to don't really, like, go on breaks. They just start recording all year long. It might take, like, a week off. Yeah.
Professional operations.
But to be fair, they have editors and researchers and sponsors and...
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, we would be fucked if we had sponsors, though. Imagine we were trying to make a Patreon. Holy shit.
I'd feel like, where the fuck is the podcast?
If we had a Patreon, I feel like I would be up at like 3 a.m. trying to record podcasts.
Probably. Or I'd be up at like 5 a.m.
Yep. My level's gone back down again, but I'm just going to leave it and I'll fix it in post. Can you hear me okay?
In post.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Emily can hear me. The rest of you can go away and shite.
But don't. We love you.
But don't. Yeah, thanks for coming back. And if there's anybody new here, sorry about that. We will try not to do too many hiatuses, but we're still trying to stick to our once a month schedule from here on, I think. I'm looking at Emily.
Yeah.
She's not shaking her head, so I'm taking that as an
agreement.
I
was doodling. I just got the sudden urge.
That's okay.
If there is like a utensil on a piece of paper next to me, I'm just like, yeah, gotta do something. But yes, we will be sticking to a once a month schedule for the time being.
Until we have capacity to do more. And that's the end of that. Anyway, does anybody want to come to Japan with me? Because that's where we're going for today's episode.
And if you just said no, feel free to turn off this episode.
Yeah, why would you not want to come to Japan with me? Japan's really cool.
I actually just dreamt last night that I moved to Japan.
Wow.
But this was in like a nightmare scenario. It wasn't very fun, so...
Oh no.
Yeah, it was bad. It was a very, very, very bad dream.
I feel like you have a lot of bad dreams. I
do.
Yeah. One of my friends as well, like every time she talks about dreams, it's a bad dream. I'm like, do you ever have nice dreams? I just don't remember mine. So
it's a symptom of PTSD.
Oh. Maybe that's why she also
nightmares all the time.
Maybe she also has nightmares for that reason.
Oh no. Yep. It's rough. I don't like it.
Or else it could be the copious amount of horror films that she consumes. That could also be it.
That could be it too, because I don't, so it comes out of purely my brain.
Yes. Speaking of, actually, we didn't really have an episode after our guest spot on the No Bodies podcast. There was a two-parter, and it was so much fun. So huge thanks to Lonely and Susie Projectile Environment for having us on and giving me an excuse to watch loads of really fun horror films that some I had seen, most of which I had not seen.
Yeah. And me an excuse to not.
Yes. They were actually
watch anything.
They were so understanding of Emily not, because when they contacted us, they were asking, would we come on the podcast and talk about folk horror? And I love folk horror, but Emily was like, just full disclosure, I don't watch horror films, and just left it up to them.
Yeah.
Would they still like to have her on? And they said yeah, because they wanted Emily to talk about it from purely folklore perspective. So
yeah,
it was good.
So I was kind of a minimal part of the podcast because I didn't have much to say about the movies, but it was fun. It was fun to hear you guys talk about it.
Yeah. One of the movies that I watched was partially the inspiration for this episode, and the movie Teke Teke, which was set in Japan, and it's about an Oni-Woman, which we will get into what that means. First of all, I think I'll get us started with my intro of what's witchcraft in Japan and why witchcraft might not be the correct term. So the concept of witches in Japan is sort of distinct from our Western notion. Obviously, they've had their whole belief system and history separate from what we would be familiar with. It does incorporate elements of Shintoism, Buddhism, and traditional folk beliefs. From what I can tell, there are different interpretations of what constitutes a witch, and they can be split up by how they're represented. So you have the westernized witches that we would be a little bit more familiar with if you're thinking from popular media like Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yeah, kind of like riding a broom.
Mm-hmm. Pointy hats. Yeah. You have the witches of folklore that are more tied to Shintoism. And then you have what we've seen come up a lot in this series, which are practicing healers, diviners, and wise women or men. So there is a culture of that within Japan that we will get to later on. So we'll start with the folkloric witches. Shintoism is Japan's indigenous religion. Shinto means way of the gods, and it predates written history. It's a complex system of beliefs, customs, and institutions. Emily's just giggling.
You should have been like, written history.
It predates written history. It's a complex system of beliefs, customs, and institutions centered on the Japanese landscape, the seasons, and how they relate to the people who live there. Shinto beliefs about nature include celebrating each season's high point and acknowledging the presence of the divine spirit, or kami, in large mountains, towering waterfalls, and venerable old trees, which we're big fans of here at Rowan Pine. We do love a religion that's based on nature and on the seasons and what we would think of as paganism.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that shows up in nearly every culture.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I appreciate their appreciation of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Also funny because you were like, big trees, and I'm like, I thought you were gonna be like, here are Rowan and Pine. We love trees.
Especially big ones. We actually haven't done a trees episode.
Did. Oh no.
Not really, not a
I've
dedicated
been wanting
one.
to. I've been wanting to do the magical beliefs around oak trees, like stuff like that.
Yeah, that would be a good one because you have a lot to draw from there. So the respect of the divine spirit is frequently demonstrated by placing a tiny shrine adjacent to the natural feature that is being honored, or by draping white rope around it. Which is cool. It's like a VIP area just for a tree. In order to counteract the contaminating effects of decay and death, Shinto tradition also includes purification rituals and practices. There is the interplay of two belief systems, a minor tradition founded on family connections or tight community relationships, and a great tradition brought from outside and accepted by the individual or group decision. It's the fundamental component of Japanese folklore. These belief systems stem from two sources: the existence of indigenous religion, which is centered on the worship of ancestors, and the numerous religions brought from outside by missionaries or believers who follow either the more developed local traditions or the big traditions. Shintoism is where we find the belief in the Oni, and that's what I was talking about, the Teki Teki movie. The entire thing's on YouTube if anybody wants to watch it. It is hilariously terrifying in equal measure. It's basically a woman with like crawling around the place. Anyway, so the Oni,
I just love the hilariously terrifying. It's like,
there are parts where you're like, this is terrifying, and then there are parts where like at one point she climbs up a pole, and I'm just like, I could not stop laughing. I'm like, that is so funny because it's just like, it's like a spider.
that is funny.
Yeah, and that's yeah, because she only has hands, so she walks around on her, and that's yes, she's no feet. So it's like she's walking around, and tiki tiki is the noise of her hands slapping the ground as she walks.
Makes sense.
So the Oni in Japanese folklore are a specific type of yokai. Yokai being a broad class of supernatural beings. So Oni is like one type.
I've talked about the yokai before.
I think so. I think you talked about...
I think in the house spirit episode.
Yes. They're considered to be foreign in origin, perhaps introduced into Japan from China along with Buddhism. Not the Oni themselves, I mean like the belief. It's just like they're only Chinese.
They were brought here by boat.
From China. That's sounds weirdly current of the current political landscape. Anyway, in Shinto, Oni are spirits linked to disease, calamity, and misfortune. They have a human-like appearance, but with some eerie features. For example, 3 eyes, a wide mouth, horns, and sharp talons on their hands and feet. They can even fly and are known to swoop down to snatch the soul of a wicked person who is about to die. The majority of Oni are male, and when female Oni appear in folktales, they do so with an age signifier, because even freaking demons can't escape age-obsessed culture with women, apparently. So they'll usually be called an Oni-baba, Oni-bamba, or Oni-basa, all meaning Oni-women or Oni-hag. Every year there's this big event called the Oni-yarahi, or demon expelling ceremony, where they perform a drama to drive away diseases, bad luck, and disasters.
That's cool.
But we're lucky because we have some built-in superheroes that can combat Oni in the form of Buddhist monks. I love the idea of this.
It's like Catholic priests and demons.
Yeah, but like just cooler. Buddhist monks are considered to be quite effective against Oni. The Nichiren sect in particular holds regular retreats specifically to expel evil spirits. Nichiren, who lived from 1222 to 1282, founded his school of Buddhism during a tumultuous period in Japan marked by Mongol invasions, earthquakes, epidemics, and famines. He saw these disasters as the work of the Oni and famously criticized the Zen sect as an invention of the devil. So I love that there's this order of monks that are just like, their whole thing is to just combat demons. I would love to know if they're doing like fight training. Can they do amazing backflips?
So I'm imagining them doing like hand-to-hand, like fighting, but you can't see what they're fighting.
Yeah, like literal shadow boxing.
Yeah. I'm like, it's called something. I couldn't think of it though.
Yeah. Yeah, just on top of some beautiful mountain in Japan, like just doing complete shadow boxing. I would love this. It's only funny because Buddhist monks are seem so composed all the time, and that's why this is funny to me.
Peaceful.
Yes, they're here just
and then you've
fighting
got
demons.
them fighting. Yeah.
Fighting horned demons with talons. So because they are yokai, we have an example of the intersection between Oni and what we would have the idea of as witches. And that's in the story of Shuten Doji, who is a notorious Oni leader. According to legend, Shuten Doji was a powerful demon who terrorized Kyoto and abducted young women. It is said that the Shuten Doji and his band of Oni were aided by an old witch who lived in the mountains. This witch provided the Oni with magical concoctions and spells to strengthen their malevolent activities. The legendary warrior Minamoto no Raiko and his men eventually defeated the Shuten Doji and his followers using both martial prowess and magic means to overcome their supernatural foes. Well, that's a comic book if ever I've heard of it.
For real.
Definitely. But like, she's not a girl's girl helping them abduct young women. That's a pick-me. What a bitch. When I first started reading that, I was like, oh cool, she's gonna like help take down the Oni that are abducting young women because like she's a feminist. No, she's not. She's helping them. She's like
terrible.
What do you call her? Aunt Lydia from Handmaid's Tale. She's on the wrong side. Aunt Lydia's
and the reference goes directly over my head.
Aunt Lydia is basically like the one that like is in charge of the handmaids and like issues their beatings and make sure that they get like impregnated and stuff. Yeah, so she's an Aunt Lydia.
That's terrible.
Yeah, go watch Handmaid's Tale.
Oh yeah, I've heard from many people. They're like, never watch this.
No.
And just from what I've heard, I'm like, yeah, it is so far off my watch list.
It's just way too realistic, you know?
Right.
Like, especially when, like...
It's too much of the slippery slope kind of stuff that's happening currently in the United States.
Yeah. And it does a lot, like, there are flashbacks, because it's set, like, I think it's supposed to start in, like, 2017. And it's just, the flashbacks are that slippery slope thing of, like, they'll be, like, going in to order coffee, and they'll be refused service because they're women, like, that kind of thing. Like, and that's the slippery slope. Or, like, they'll get fired just because they're women, you know?
Yikes.
Yeah, but it is, like, a very good show, though, otherwise.
I'm just, like, my brain starts going in all the directions where like this stuff is starting to seem accurate and I like my stomach hurts.
Yeah.
Anywho.
So a specific type of Oni, as we mentioned, the witches can be Oni-Women, is a Yamauba or a Yamanba. I've seen it written both, and in all of the literature that I found in it refers to them as both. This is a mountain witch or a hag, often depicted as an old, wild-haired woman living deep in the mountains. Slay. To many contemporary Japanese people, the word Yamauba conjures up the image of an ugly old woman who lives alone and devours humans. The distinctive features of the Yamauba are said to be that she is a cannibalistic woman living in the mountains, and secondly, she possesses the duality of good and evil, bringing death and destruction as well as wealth and fertility. So she's just a girl doing it all.
She does it all.
Yeah, you can have it all, girls of the 90s. I feel like that was a big thing when we were kids. It's like, can a woman really have it all? That was always like, and the answer is no. She needs help.
Yeah, and they were also just talking about this on the podcast when they were talking about Jim Henson. He was so creative and he did so much, but then like he was never present for his children. And like same with like Steve Jobs and all those kind of people. It's like everybody wants you to believe that you can have a family and like a amazing career and stuff like that, but you can't. One thing's gonna suffer.
Yeah. Have you watched this is a show that you actually would like, is Shrinking?
No, I haven't. But I like how you're like, you actually would like it.
Yeah, because it's not going to traumatize you.
Perfect.
Shrinking with Jason Segel and Harrison Ford.
Oh, I've heard of it because Jessica Williams is in it, and I love her.
Who's Jessica Williams?
She's black.
Oh,
has like long braids.
She's one of the therapists in it.
Yeah,
it's really good.
She's hilarious.
She's really good in it.
Super great comedian.
I love Jason Segel, but I watched it because Krista Miller's in it, and I adore Krista Miller, who was...
I don't know who that is.
She was Jordan in Scrubs, and she's actually... So it's the makers of Scrubs and Ted Lasso, and...
Okay.
So if you like that...
Fan favorites.
Yeah, if you like that sort of humor, you would love Shrinking. But yeah, she's also the the wife of the creator of Scrubs and Ted Lasso, but I found out like semi lately that she is the music supervisor for all of those shows, and she won an Emmy for being the music supervisor. And I'm like, she picked all the music for Scrubs? That's insane, because that was like a huge part of my 20s. Like, I got so many bands from that show.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
She's multi-talented.
Yeah.
She's probably a terrible mom. Just kidding.
Oh, what actually led me to that is in Shrinking, Harrison Ford is in it, and he plays like this incredibly successful therapist, and he's like winning awards and stuff, but there is a storyline where his adult daughter is reaching out to him again, and she's really having trouble with all of the accolades that he's getting and all of his patients saying that he's amazing, and she's basically like, he was never there for me, you know?
Right.
Like, everybody telling me my dad's amazing, he's such a good listener, he's so understanding, but like, she never got that, which is so like, it's so tough.
Yeah, they were talking about that too, where it's like the like really successful therapists' children don't get that same version of them because the parent goes to work and they like put all their energy and stuff into being like such a great therapist and listener and stuff like that. So then when they come home, it's just like,
yeah,
shut that off.
Yeah. And it probably like, my dad was a psychiatric nurse. Like, there's probably a little bit of like, you think that comparison of problems, like you think your problems are problems, they're not. Like, I deal with people all day who are like highly disturbed or like have incredible like intellectual disabilities, XYZ.
Yeah. And
then I'm coming home to you who are like, you're telling me you're struggling because like you didn't make like the soccer team, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
I'm sure that there's that is part of it too, which, you know.
Yeah. Although I think part of the training to be a therapist, at least now, like a big part of it is recognizing that everybody has their struggles, and it just kind of depends on relative to the rest of their life. Like there was one time where Medardo like accidentally backed into, we have like an iron gate on our driveway. It sounds really fancy. It's very old and rusted. It's not that fancy. But he accidentally backed into it, and it like dinged his bumper on his car, and it like ruined his day. And for me, I'm just like, it's a fucking ding in the bumper.
I know. And like, don't get me wrong, I have been that person that's like, if people have like, you know, complained about stuff, especially when I was a lot younger, they complained about stuff, or like they were like, oh, I'm depressed, but you're just like, you have, you know, like there are people that are so much worse off than you, like, why are you depressed and all of that? But like, obviously I've learned as I've gotten older that that's not what it's about.
Well, and you like probably internalized it from some source.
Oh, true, yeah. But I've also like, the best way it was like that light bulb moment for me was when I saw somebody say that like, if somebody is really happy and having the best day of their life, you would never go to them like, why are you so happy? There's people that are so much more happy than you, you know?
Right.
It's just like,
yeah.
When I heard that, it was like, that's incredible. Yes, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of like putting that scope of, there's people who've lost their entire family. So for them, a bad day is not going to be getting a ding in their bumper.
Yeah.
But for somebody who's never lost anything, a loss is a big loss.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh my God, my car got wrecked. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal for them.
Yeah.
But people who, you know, have lost things really important and irreplaceable to them don't feel the same.
Yeah. And then there's the whole baggage of like, if you're somebody who does not experience failure very often, if you make a mistake, it feels absolutely the worst thing. Like I still struggle with failure because a lot of my self-worth is tied to being good at things and being successful, and you know, like that's why I'm terrible at learning to do new things, because I have to be good at them right away, or else I'm just like, fuck this.
Yeah.
That's why I never was able to keep up guitar, because I could not push through being shit at it, you know?
Yeah, it makes sense though.
Yeah. So we all have our levels.
I think that's why a lot of people like will talk to me and they're like, but like, how did you get good at drawing? And I'm like, practice. And they're like, well, I've drawn and I suck at it. I'm like, have you put like hundreds or thousands of hours into it? Because
yeah,
that's how people get good at something. Mm-hmm. You can't just put it down when you can't do it right away.
Yeah. Yeah, but everyone has their base level, and women can have it all. if they have a village and friends. That's our basic thing. But anyway, back to the Yamauba.
And if you're a witch.
In folklore, the Yamauba is associated with supernatural powers, including the ability to control the elements, shapeshift, and cast curses. She's sometimes depicted as a benevolent figure, offering wisdom and guidance to those who seek her out, while in other stories she's portrayed as a malevolent entity who preys on unsuspecting travelers.
I always get benevolent and malevolent mixed up. And it's so bad because, like, my friend, like, her son's middle name means benevolent. And when she said that, I was like, oh no. And she's like, what? Like
Maleficent, basically?
And I think, and the Medardo's right there, and he was like, no, it means good.
I love that you didn't hold back either. You're like, oh no. Just pretend to
I
like
mean,
it.
we're like close like that.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, oh, like, isn't that like a bad thing? That was a
It's
stupid moment.
You named
for
your
me.
child Satan? What?
Yeah, basically.
In various texts, the Yamauba and Oni-Women terms are often used interchangeably, reflecting their overlapping characteristics. A Yamauba herself is considered a type of Oni, with tales depicting both malevolent and benevolent versions, as we said. The major differences are that the Yamaubas dwell in the mountains, whereas a female Oni does not require any mountainous setting. So once you put a female Oni in the mountains, she becomes a Yamauba.
Interesting.
Yes. Further, Yamauba are always female, whereas Oni-Women, on the other hand, could be a transformed male Oni, which feels transphobic. Anyway, this requires... just saying, Japan. This requires one to consider an Oni's gender. Stories like Kuwazubu Nyobo, the wife who didn't eat, and Ushikata to Yamauba, ox cart puller and a mountain witch, portray malicious Yamauba contrasted with kind-hearted ones in narratives such as Ubakawa, Old Woman's Skin. But I'm like, that's the good one. Komebuku Awabuku, which is just two names, and Hanayo no Hime, which means Blossom Princess. Those are the benevolent ones. Just an example, Kuwazu Noyobo, the wife who doesn't eat, I actually found two versions of it where the only woman is, in one she's malevolent and the other she's benevolent, so it's a perfect illustration. The duality of this figure in folklore. The wife who didn't eat, also, it could also be translated as the wife with a small appetite. So she is a yokai with a second mouth at the side of her head. She appears to a man who goes around making the stingy-hearted and ridiculous claim, if I take a wife, my food costs will increase, so I want a hard-working woman with a small appetite.
Very weird that she has two mouths and a small appetite.
I think she basically doesn't have a working mouth on the front of her face.
Oh.
I think that's the way it works. So he meets an Oni-Woman. He doesn't realize she's an Oni-Woman, and the two promptly get married. The wife with a small appetite works really hard, but she doesn't eat a bite of food in front of her husband. So she appears to be, in his selfish eyes, the ideal woman because, of course, a woman who doesn't eat and probably doesn't talk back much.
Asshole.
Yes.
Not her.
And yet, rice and other ingredients keep disappearing from his house. He begins to suspect that his wife is eating in secret, so he starts to spy on her. What he discovers is that when she thinks that he's not around, she cooks up a load of rice and then she forms them into onigiri and tosses one after the other into a mouth that is hidden at the side of her head. So he sees her doing this and announces immediately that he wants a divorce. She reveals her true nature and attempts to abduct him.
Get him.
He narrowly escapes by hiding in a marsh where irises are growing. So irises are seen to be a protective flower against malevolent figures or bad magic. That's the only way that he escapes his wife with a small appetite. So that's the malevolent version. In the benevolent version, there was a kind-hearted man. So he's gone from stingy to kind-hearted, which almost tells you that it's like, it's all dependent on how he treats her. There was a kind-hearted man who lived in a remote mountain village. He was known for his compassion and willingness to help others. One day, while wandering deep into the mountains, he encountered a Yamauba, a fearsome creature with supernatural powers. So at this point, he knows what she is.
Yeah.
Contrary to her reputation, this particular Yamauba seemed gentle and kind-hearted. The man invited the Yamauba to live with him. She accepted his offer and became his wife. Over time, the couple lived harmoniously, and the man grew fond of his Yamauba wife despite her non-human origins. So he loved her even though she was weird and had a mouth on the side of her head.
What a great guy.
However, no matter how delicious or carefully prepared the meals were, she would politely refuse to partake in any of them. This puzzled the man, but out of love and respect for his wife, he did not press her on the matter. So he's like, not my business. One day, out of curiosity and concern, the man decided to secretly follow his wife into the forest. To his astonishment, he discovered that Yamauba was secretly gathering food and offering it to a giant spider living deep in the woods. The spider, in return, would grant her mystical powers and blessings. Realizing the truth, the man was both shocked and heartbroken. He confronted his wife, questioning her about her secret visits and the truth behind her strange behaviour. The Yamauba tearfully confessed her pact with the spider and her inability to eat human food due to her spiritual obligations and loyalty to the spider. Despite the revelation, the man's love for his Yamauba wife remained strong. He understood the reasons behind her actions and chose to accept her for who she was, supernatural ties and all. The tale concludes with the couple continuing to live together, their bond strengthened by mutual understanding and acceptance. So that's very much the Disney-fied version of it.
Yeah. I was going to say, I would also love to have a pact with the spider.
Yeah. Especially when, like, there are so many versions of this story. In another version of the Malevolent story, she tries to feed him to the spider.
It's pretty metal.
Which, yeah, it's pretty metal. But yeah, it shows the duality of these figures within Japanese folklore.
Yeah.
And anybody who thinks the Yamauba might sound familiar, it's considered that the Baba Yaga of Russian folklore is just the Russian counterpart. So she's very much a Baba Yaga.
That's another thing I have to do an episode about.
Definitely. Because I know very little about Baba Yaga, but I know that you've done art of her and like her house and everything. So yeah. I feel like she's yours.
Yeah.
You should do an episode on her.
It's so funny because when I was selling my like stuff at an event last weekend, there was this group. It was like 2 women and 1 guy, and he had a shirt on it with a crow and it said Nevermore. And then like the women had like starry, I don't know, like they were dressed really cool. And then they're like walking by my like little setup, and then the one goes, Baba Yaga! And I was just like, my people.
Yeah, you found your people.
It was great.
And they found you.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It's like I find so many like amazing artists on Instagram, and they'll always like show that they're doing like pop-ups and stuff, and I'm just like, there's never anybody who does that kind of stuff around here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's such a bummer.
It's
that's
niche.
What like the 2 events that I did prior to that kind of had me bummed out because there was like not many people who liked my stuff. The first one was the worst. The second one was like a little better, but the second one also came with people who would just say like stupid shit. They're like, oh, that's too scary for me. It's like, okay, move along.
But like your art isn't even scary. Like it's not really.
That's what I was
like. It's not horror,
right? I was like, I didn't think it was like maybe like a little spooky, but it's not like gonna haunt your nightmares.
It's macabre.
But then
like
this third one, I went into it with like no faith. I was like, I'm not gonna find my people. But there was like a lot of people there that were like, oh my god, I love this, and like I sold like the most, and I was like, oh, thank you.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need to find your people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I have another example just from Shintoism. That's actually a historical example of somebody with magical, quote unquote, magical abilities being honored within official belief systems. So that's the Onmyoji. So they are practitioners of Onmyodo, which is a traditional Japanese esoteric cosmology. It blends elements of Taoism, Shintoism, and astrology. So Onmyoji were skilled in divination, exorcism, and spell casting. They served as advisors to the imperial court in Japan, in ancient Japan. One famous historical example of an Onmyoji is Abe no Seimei, who lived during the Heian period, which is like 794 to 1185. And it's a man who was legendary for his supernatural abilities and his contributions to Japanese folklore.
That's cool.
Which is pretty cool. So that is witchcraft within the context of Shintoism. And as I mentioned, we have a westernized version of witchcraft or witches who are the Majo. It's with the introduction of Western occult traditions in the late 20th century. Secret societies founded by translators played a crucial role in promoting teaching from the Golden Dawn, who, side note, because I was like, I've definitely heard a podcast about the Golden Dawn, but I can't remember who it is. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, commonly known as the Golden Dawn, was founded in London in 1888 by the Freemasons. They sought to create an organization that would explore and teach the esoteric traditions of the Western mystery traditions, drawing from elements of ceremonial magic, Kabbalah, astrology, tarot, and alchemy.
Interesting.
I just love the word alchemy. Yeah. So during the 1990s, witchcraft and Wicca gained traction in Japan. In 1991, 2 significant witchcraft circles were founded. One, the Oriental Wicca, traces its origins to an initiation by a British witch. It's hard to say.
British witch.
In Yokohama. It seeks to blend Wiccan wisdom with Eastern teachings for a unique spiritual practice. The other circle represents a Japanese branch of the Green Circle, initially founded by Marion Green, a renowned female astrologer. I feel like the entire Western world was going into a real Wicca thing during the 90s. A lot of our the shows that we would have grown up on.
I was gonna say
very much
there was Charmed, and then what's the movie with the witches? Oh my
The Craft.
The Craft. Yeah, it had
if we could dress like that for the rest of our lives, we would be happy.
Right. Yeah, it definitely had its moment in the 90s, and then it kind of went away, and now it's for sure coming back.
Yeah, even Buffy. Buffy had a lot of Wicca in it.
Yeah.
And, Willow went through her whole witchcraft journey and all of that. So.
And Dawson's Creek. No, I'm just kidding.
I feel like this was a bit of a runoff that was just what was happening in the world.
Yeah.
However, there was a widespread fear and stigma surrounding magic in Japan, and it took a dark turn in 1995 when members of the cult Aum Shinriko released deadly sarin gas on Tokyo subway lines. Yeah. This incident heightened public apprehensions about occult practices, leading many practitioners to retreat from open gatherings and conduct their rituals secretly at home. But that was sort of a blip. Interest in Western occultism continues to evolve in Japan, blending with local spiritual traditions to create unique expressions of magical practice. The journey from secretive beginnings to broader acceptance reflects Japan's complex relationship with spiritual exploration in a modern context. So just the word Majo is sort of a more modern invention. The noun means witch in Japanese. Japanese native speakers would use it normally to refer to women who cast magic spells. But interestingly enough, sometimes they also use it to refer to women who look much younger than they are, which I think is really cool. She's a Majo.
I had somebody at that event that I was working, and she was like, I don't remember how it came up, but she was like, I'm kind of confused how old you are. She's like, so you have a lot of gray hair, but your face looks like you're younger. And I was like, oh, thank you, because I feel like I look old at this point. But I was like, yeah, I'm 30. Wait, how old am I? 34. And she's like, you fooled me.
I love that, though, when you meet people and you're like, they're very hard to age.
Yeah.
My favorite example of that is when somebody has a baby who looks like they have a bank manager's job. Those babies that just have the face of a 52-year-old.
Yeah, they just look old.
That's one of my favorite things. So the word Majo, the kanji expression of it consists of 2 kanji characters. So the first character means devil, demon, or something supernatural. And the second part literally just means woman. So Majo literally translated means devil woman. I feel like there's a song from the 80s called that, is there?
Probably. You mean Devil Woman or Majo?
Devil Woman.
Oh, yeah.
There's probably a Majo as well.
There's probably a lot of songs called Devil Woman, yeah.
She's a devil woman. I don't know.
She made me fall in love with her, and then I didn't do the dishes ever.
Yeah.
So then she left
And the
me.
music video is definitely someone wearing a red dress and heels.
Right.
And just dancing in that 80s way where they use the heels of their hands a lot.
Yeah. And she's got brown hair but blue eyes.
And it's some dude with glasses that are way too thick. Kind of like Roy Orbison. See it now. Okay. So those are the Majo. But now we get into what I really spend way too long digging around in, and I was sending Emily oh my god, I'm so sick of anime people polluting the searches for this.
You fucking weeaboos.
I had heard whisperings that there was a form of witch hunts in Japan. So this is what I was digging for. And all I could find for the longest time was a Tumblr post. And I am not using that as a reference.
Just a single Tumblr post.
Yeah, seriously. But then I found somebody's academic journal article and I was like, thank God. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about the Okinawan witch hunts and the revival of the Yuta. Yuta generally refers to a traditional spiritual practitioner or healer in the context of Okinawan culture, particularly in the Ryukyu Islands of Japan. Prior to 1879, Okinawa was a separate country from Japan called the Ryukyu Kingdom with its own culture and language. I did not know that before I looked this up. I didn't know Okinawa was separate.
That's crazy.
Yuta are believed to have the ability to communicate with spirits and deities, as well as to perform rituals aimed at healing physical and spiritual ailments. They have the gift of divination, providing guidance and insight through various methods such as reading omens or using spiritual tools. To become Yuta, they undergo extensive training, often passed down through generations or learned from experienced practitioners. Their skills include chants, prayers, and the use of herbs or other natural elements in their healing practices. So a lot of stuff that we're very familiar with, especially throughout this series. They also play an important role in their communities, serving as intermediaries between the human world and the spirit world. They are consulted for various issues ranging from health problems to spiritual disturbances. They remind me a lot of the Norse witches.
Yeah.
The Volva. That's who we were thinking of.
Yeah. Go, Niamh.
We did not take a pause and go back and look.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There was no looking through notes.
Because our brains are mush.
There's been a lot going on.
Yeah, there
We
has.
should give ourselves some grace.
Yeah, so especially like the being consulted like as part of the community and having like that sort of status. So their practices are deeply rooted in Okinawan animistic beliefs, which emphasize harmony with nature and the spiritual realm. So a little bit of what we saw with the Shintoism as well, but a completely separate belief system. And despite modernization, Yuta continue to be respected and sought after for their traditional knowledge and spiritual abilities. But it was not always like this, and we're going to talk about that. So in Okinawan folklore and history, stories often feature Yuta who play pivotal roles in resolving conflicts, curing illnesses attributed to spiritual causes, a bit like our Banfasa in Ireland, or providing guidance in times of crisis. And the actual term Yuta itself reflects the unique cultural and spiritual practices of the Ryukyu Islands, distinct from mainland Japanese traditions. So there's a reason why it's really important that it's distinct from other Japanese traditions, and you'll see why. So in pre-annexation Ryukyu Kingdom, men oversaw political matters, boo, while women held authority over religious affairs. Why were the men allowed? Anyway, just full stop. Why were the men allowed? So the division between politics and religion was widespread, with women priests known as Noro managing all official religious ceremonies and seeking divine guidance. State-sanctioned Noro were responsible for formal religious observances, but outside the structure emerged Kaminchu, or God people, and Yuta. So it was sort of like an offset of their belief system. Yuta were mainly peasant women who were regarded with a mix of respect, fear, and skepticism. That's all I want in life. Respect, fear, and skepticism.
I don't know about the skepticism, though.
I don't know. Well, I guess I do need to be called on my bullshit sometimes.
That's true. I'll allow it.
But not by men, only by other women. As soon as a man tries to call me on my bullshit, I'm like, no, I'm doubling down. Double bullshit.
You're doubling down. Sorry.
Ewan tried to tell me to do something today, and I just looked at him and he was like, obey me. And I was like, nice try. Anyway.
Did you not get the pun?
I did get the double.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't give you adequate reaction.
I was like, I don't know if she caught me being really stupid or not.
Dublin down.
Even though you are nowhere near Dublin.
As I was reminded last week when I was 4 hours on a bus.
Oh no.
Get there and back. But it was fine. I got pizza. Anyway. It was all worth it. Pizza and donuts. Anyway.
Perfect.
So they were regarded with a mix of respect, fear, and skepticism due to their role in communicating with the dead and interpreting dreams and signs to heal clients. Operating in what was considered an underground culture, punk as fuck, they were seen as unconventional figures outside of mainstream religious beliefs like Confucianism and Buddhism. From the 17th century onwards, especially under Satsuma rule, I didn't know Satsuma was an actual, like, I know what Satsumas are, but like, I'm like, how is that tied to the oranges?
I was going to say they're oranges, aren't they? Because I've never heard them referred to that except for on like British TV.
Yeah, it is. Like, you don't even hear Irish people calling them that. British people love calling them Satsumas.
And
we should ask David.
You should. Like, what the fuck's up with this?
It's like, I never heard the term cuties until I was watching Love is Blind. And there was a whole argument over cuties.
It's a brand.
Okay. So it's kind of like Granny Smith.
Brand?
No, Satsuma is like a type of little orange.
Yeah.
Is it the little one? It is the little one, isn't it? Yeah.
Because, cuties it's like the brand of the, like, tiny oranges.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Why are we branding fruit? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. Because they come in, like, a little bag.
Stop fucking with the fruit.
And they're just called cuties.
Yeah, it's like pink lady apples. Like, why are they pink? Somebody was fucking around with the apples to make them pink.
But that's the name of the apple.
Yeah.
Like, apples have different, what's the word?
Genesis?
Oh my God. Yeah, like, they're different flavors and stuff like that. So there's different names to differentiate them. But cuties aren't, like, a different type of orange. Mm-hmm. They're just... Are they tangerines? Hold on.
This is the ultimate tangent. Tangerine tangent.
They're clementine mandarins.
Okay, I feel like those are all different things.
Yeah.
Clementines and then mandarins.
Yeah, so they're just like, they're tiny oranges, and these people are like, we're calling them cuties.
Well, what are satsumas?
Am I Googling this now too?
Yeah.
A satsuma mandarin.
Oh, so it's just it's like a clementine.
Yeah. It's related to tangerines, clementines, and tangelos, which I've never heard of. Why do there have to be so many? They're originating from Japan more than 700 years ago.
Okay. Must mean during the Satsuma rule.
Now that we've educated everybody on oranges.
Can we all agree that there are too many types of oranges in the world?
There's a lot of apples,
If you take nothing else away from this podcast, there are too many the apples as well. But to be fair,
a new one.
I love a Granny Smith. No, there's not. Emily, I can't handle this. This is like Pluto.
It's called Cosmic Crisp. It's actually very good.
Why are they changing the fruit? I feel like I grew up with fruit and they're changing it.
I love me a gala apple. That's my favorite.
I do like a gala, but my favorite is because I'm a sour bitch. Hey, look, if there's one thing I know about myself, I like sour jellies, Granny Smith apples, and I like Sauvignon Blanc wine. Because I'm sour as fuck.
That's so funny. Because it's like, I'm the opposite. I don't like sour things.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I like limes. That's about it.
One time I think I burnt the top of my tongue from eating too many of those sour, like, ropes. Not the ropes.
The straw ones?
The rainbow ones. You know,
Oh, yeah.
They're like belts.
Those are good.
Yeah. But I got ones from Tesco that were just... The citric acid on them was like, I don't know, that there should have been a warning label, and you could actually see on my tongue where I'd like burnt it away.
Oh my God.
And I would love to say that I was a child when this happened, but I'm pretty sure I was like 32.
I was going to say this is a couple years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm like the gala apples. I don't know if you've had a gala apple, but they're like...
Mm-hmm. They're called Royal Gala here for some reason.
Oh.
Yeah, must be British.
I was going to say, it's inspired by England. Those are good. I like that they're like sweet, but like a little tart.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I like.
From the 17th century onwards, especially under Satsuma rule and later Japanese annexation in 1879, Yuta faced increasing pressure and official crackdowns due to fears of spreading dissent and being uncontrollable forces in society. So because it was so different from like the rest of Japanese belief system, they saw it as a threat. As we've seen before, they'll always fear a woman in power or with power. Right. A woman who cannot be controlled. After Okinawa was formally incorporated into the Japanese state in 1879, the continued practices of Yuta, who invoked Ryukyuan history and genealogies in their own language, posed the challenge to the legitimacy of Japanese hegemonic structures. Seen primarily as women perpetuating outdated customs, that's a quote that they've put in, they were viewed as resisting assimilation into the new Japanese empire and its modern gendered state. Similar to situations in Korea and Taiwan under Imperial Japan, there was pressure for Okinawans to adopt modern citizenship norms. So it's just that age-old story. It's like you colonize, take over, get rid of the indigenous religion, try and make them believe something else, even though that the only reason they're doing it is because they're scared.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible. What colonization is just really sad, and the fact that it's like all stemming from religion just makes me angry.
Yeah. Religion's probably like one of the biggest tools of colonization, because it's just like, if you can try and convince people that they're literally going to be damned or something terrible will happen, or like you can try and control their actual belief system. Like, it's one thing to believe in a country or believe in your ruler or whatever like that, but to actually believe that your deity is different, you know, that's ultimate control.
Boo.
Boo. This is me radicalizing Emily against British people. Anyway. No, not British people. The British imperial structure.
They're called cuties. No.
Satsumas. Anyway. Yuta, as powerful women, drew on Ryukyuan traditions of ancestor worship and genealogy to advise clients on spiritual matters and practical actions to manage spiritual influences. Their expertise and supernatural abilities made them influential figures, particularly among other women who frequently sought their counsel. These factors periodically provoked conservative reactions from the Japanese state. It's also a huge callback to our Mexican witches episode.
Yeah.
That Melina was telling us all about.
Yeah. Fun times.
In the late 19th century, a crackdown of Yuta intensified due to accusations that they were involved in schemes to evade conscription. I love this. Clients often sought their help to influence the spirits and ensure their sons would fail the physical exam required for military service, which was seen as disloyal and treasonous to imperial authorities.
Oh my goodness.
I just love that somebody's mom was like, he can't go to war, he won't survive. What can we do here? She goes to the local Yuta.
Yeah.
Like, okay, he's got bone spurs. Yuta were also stigmatized by association with juri, who are sex workers, and laws were enacted to suppress both to uphold public morality. So they're just lumping them all in together. It just sounds like they just got all the fun people, and they're just like, none of that.
No fun for you guys.
We don't want women taking money for anything at all, because it's like, it's probably like a little shadow economy that they couldn't properly tax because people were taking money for magic spells and little rolls in the hay, and you know, can't be having that. I don't know why I said rolls in the hay as if children are listening to this. Hope they're not.
It just cracks me up because it's like such an old people thing for you to say.
A little tumble.
A little tumble in the sheets.
In the 20th century, these attitudes really ramped up. They became even less tolerant of religions outside of state Shinto and Buddhism. Then they started cracking down hard on Yuta, accusing them of being disloyal and stirring up trouble. This crackdown turned into full-on witch hunts, officially launched in 1939. By 1941, over 500 Yuta in Okinawa were in the crosshairs of the thought police. Some just disappeared, probably executed. Others got thrown into jail for various stretches, kicked out of their villages, fined, or warned to stop practicing altogether. There was also like some stories of them, like, to make an example, they would like behead Yuta women and just parade them through the streets.
So horrible. It's so, like, when I hear about stuff like that, I'm just like, it's kind of insane that, like, your, like, everyday life, you could just see these horrible things.
Yeah, and it's crazy as well if you, like, speak to people who, like, live through stuff like this, and they'll say it with, like, such a matter of fact, being like, yeah, I saw this.
Yeah.
Ewan worked with, like, a guy who had escaped communist Russia when we were in Canada, and he just was, like, blasé telling him about the time that his parents were plucked off the side of the road and sent to go like farm a field.
Oh my gosh.
then it was found out that they were still practicing religion and they were just thrown in a gulag. Wow. They were just telling you in this and you was like, what? What?
Excuse?
Excuse me? Crazy.
Yeah.
So after the Battle of Okinawa, we're into World War II time here. A major shift took place in the island's status. Despite Japan retaining formal sovereignty, Okinawa effectively became a US overseas territory. Initially under direct military administration, it eventually transitioned to civilian governance led by locally elected representatives. Under US administration, Okinawa was formally separated from Japan. Efforts were made to revive and preserve Ryukyuan native values, cultural norms, and language. This marked a departure from the previous restrictions imposed during 80 years of direct Japanese rule. Despite challenges, including the aftermath of wartime violence, this shift acknowledged the natural rights of Ryukyuans to their own history and culture. So the Yuta saw a comeback within a new form. Traditional Yuta weren't too thrilled about the newcomers. So it's like young people taking up the Yuta religion and Yuta practitioners. They were questioning if they were the real deal in Okinawan spirituality, but practicality won out. Because there were so many dead Okinawans needing proper burials and memorials after the war, these new Yuta filled a huge gap. There weren't enough doctors around, so because they had traditional healing skills, they were able to administer medical attention to a lot of the people who were injured in the battle. People turned to them for help with everything from physical ailments to emotional support. It was a time when spiritual and psychological guidance were in high demand, and these Yuta stepped up to meet it. Yeah. The United States recognized Japan's residual sovereignty over the Ryukyus, and part of the island chain was returned to Japan in 1953, and then the remainder of them were returned in 1972. And to this day, the United States continues to maintain a large number of military installations on Okinawa Island. So that's sort of like how it was revived after 80 years of literal witch hunts. And I thought I would finish us off on like a list of really like interesting Yuta beliefs.
Cool.
So with sneezing. In Okinawa, sneezing is more than a bodily reaction. It's believed that your soul can escape during a sneeze. We have a little bit of that here. It's like why they say bless you.
Yeah. I've heard that it's like it opens something and like a demon could get in.
Yeah. In Okinawa, to prevent an evil spirit from snatching your soul away, locals say kusuke, which means eat crap. Should you witness a shocking event like a car accident, locals believe your soul might detach from your body. To reclaim it safely, return to the scene and recite Mabuya Mabuya Mudimiri Sori, call your soul back. So Mabuya Mabuya Mudimiri Sori means please, my soul, come back to me.
I love it.
Call back to our cats episode. In Okinawan folklore, cats are seen as messengers from the netherworld. When a cat passes away, content warning for grossness, it's suggested to hang its body in your home to prevent an evil spirit from reanimating it.
Oh my goodness.
If you find yourself unable to sleep in Okinawa, it might be the mischievous tree spirit Kujimuna playing tricks on you. They're said to sit on people, causing sleep paralysis. But something I didn't come across when I was researching our sleep paralysis episode, the remedy to get rid of a Kujimuna is a loud fart. Because the spirit detects the smell and will leave you in peace.
Wait, so why does it have to be loud then?
I don't know. Maybe it's so that they know what the smell is from. I don't know.
It should maybe be a big fart. It's like, have you ever heard of silent but deadly?
Yeah, those are the fucking worst. Okinawans believe in a cycle of life where aging means growing younger. Upon death, it's believed you return to your mother's womb, symbolized by tombs shaped like women's wombs. At celebrations like Kajimaya, elders are gifted pinwheels symbolizing a return to childhood. That's so cute.
That is really cute.
Households often have a shrine dedicated to Hinukan, a fire god believed to have brought fire to the islands from the heavens. It's the duty of the firstborn son to inherit and maintain this shrine, which includes essentials like salt, water, awamori, which is Okinawan alcohol, and incense. In Okinawan homes, gods reside in every corner, known as Yushin. Each corner, north Nanufa, south Umanufa, east Unufa, and west Thuinufa, is believed to bring specific blessings and protections. It's customary to include these gods when constructing new homes to ensure harmony and prosperity. This has like everything. It's like a Rowan Pine like tour through the past. Okinawan culture is vigilant against evil spirits which are believed to travel in straight lines and meet their demise at crossroads. To ward off these malevolent forces, stone tablets with the characters Ishiganto are placed at junctions to exorcise them.
Yeah, it's like a greatest hits that we're going
Yeah,
through.
it really is. We could have just went to Okinawa and like plucked what to do. So that is my episode on witchcraft in Japan, and thus concludes our witchcraft mini series.
I hate you.
I couldn't resist.
The miniest mini-series.
Mini-series.
10 episodes.
Yeah, it would have been nice if we had finished it off before we took a little break, but you know what?
Shit happens.
You can't always get what you want. Yeah.
Shit happens.
Yeah.
So there.
I keep getting people, like, since I moved, like, the number one question is, like, how have your cats been adjusting? Like,
It's so funny.
it's like,
You're
well,
like-
Ripley's having the time of her fucking life. She's done so much sunbathing, her arse has turned ginger. Like, the sun is actually turning her fur ginger. She's normally black. It's like,
Her
I'm
arse
glad.
is ginger.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah. She's just living her best life.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
She's way more affectionate. I don't know if it's because we drugged her with Feel Away or what it was, but I'm taking it.
Yeah. Animals are, I mean, unless they're like high anxiety animals, they're kind of like, oh, new environment. Cool.
Well, she clearly, I think she's basically been subtly telling us, like, you've had me in an apartment for so long and I'm clearly meant for a house. Like,
She goes,
I am a
we
house
need
cat.
more space.
This is unacceptable. As if she wasn't found in a car engine, you know? It's like, all right, uppity. Do you have any words of wisdom to impart?
Nothing that I can think of.
Yeah. Don't watch the news too much, people. It'll make you sad.
It will. And maybe even just like stay offline, because I feel like anything that goes on the news, if it's a big deal, it's also going to be online and you can't really run from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have found myself significantly less online. People
Yeah.
send me memes and that's about the only thing I look at.
Yeah. So what we're essentially saying is go touch grass. We want people to go touch grass. And we're not saying that in the derogatory way, like, you should go touch grass.
I was going to
Because-
say, don't tell people that.
No, but they should. Actually go touch
Just
grass. It's good.
enjoy your real life.
Yeah. Your life is not in your phone.
Not other people's lives on the internet. Yeah. So those are my words of wisdom.
Find a new book to read or listen to, because there's no nicer feeling than, like, if you're like working all day and you're just like, oh, I have like something to read or listen to later if I have time. It's nice. Or having a show.
Yeah.
It's always nice.
If you have kids, just take them to the park. Put your phone in your bag.
Mm-hmm.
Leave it there. Oh, reading. I have to. The next up in line on my audiobook app is called Oh Crap. It's about potty training.
Oh my god.
So that's where I'm at this point. It's just like self-help and how to get your kids to shit on the toilet. Potty training books are in my future, and fuck yeah, folklore.
Fuck yeah, folklore. We'll catch you next month. Say hi on social media. Bye.
Bye.
Ryukyu pronunciation. Ryukyu.